So in the last class, we're done with reference lines. So I'm going to showcase what actually BINS. Then we'll start with the annotations and I think discrete and continuous. We'll start it, yes. So we have BINS actually. So what actually BINS and how we can create BINS in Tableau. So one of the important interview question I have seen is like how to create a bin. Okay. Sorry, not how to create a bin, how to, or you can tell like this, what is histogram chart? And they'll ask this question, okay, what is how to create histogram chart or what is histogram chart? And can we create a bin field on top of dimensions? Okay, this is one of the tricky question. It's not complex, okay, it's a simple question whether we can create a bin or not on top of dimensions. Okay, so bin field, basically you remember, right? So we discussed about groups and set, right? And we know that we can create groups on top of dimensions and also on top of measures, but we don't prefer measures, right? We don't prefer groups on top of measures. But how bins works, I'll use this particular concepts to validate the data, but we don't prefer to create group on top of measure. So basically we have bins. We can create, so you can see here, we can create a bin field on top of any measure. Right click on a profit or right click here. You can create bins, correct? Right click on quantity, create bin field. So we can create a bin on top of measures. Okay, so we can create bin field on top of any of the measure. And generally they will ask this question, as I said, how to create a histogram. And can we create bin field on top of dimensions? Let's see. You know, we can create set on top of dimension, but it's not possible to create a set on top of measure. Okay, in general. But we can create a group on top of both dimension and measure, right? That's what I just showed. So we can create a group field on top of dimension. We are aware of this, but only bins, right? Right click on this, create bins. So we can create bins on top of measure. That's very important. Grouping of some set of values is called as bins or kind of a bucket. Okay, but when you select any of the measure, what is happening here is you can see default it got selected as a bar graph, and you can also see this chart. What is this? Histogram. So by default you have these two options. When you click on this histogram, automatically it will create a bin field. When you mouse over, you can see below text, you can read the text. For histogram view, try one measure, creates a bin field. Understand, right? Or we can manually create a bin field and you can create a histogram. So I just clicked on histogram chart and you can see default you're getting 0k 1 2 3 4 5. Here sales bin and the count of sales. This is the default bin field or default histogram chart I'm going to showcase. But when you look into here in the dimensions, you can able to find sales bin. This is where when you click on the histogram chart, by default you'll get sales bin. This is what sales bin. Okay, let's come back. You don't see sales bin now. So default, when you click on a measure and when you create a histogram, default it creates a bin field. Okay, so the question is, I'll come back to the histogram chat again. Can we create a bin field on top of dimension? This is what one of the tricky question. Most of the developers not aware of that. So when you right click, just for a validation, right? When you right click and create, you can see, do you have bin on top of dimension? No. Right click on a state, create, you don't have a bin option. So the answer is, generally we used to tell, yes, it's not possible to create bin field on top of dimensions, but not all the dimensions, that's what my point. Not all the dimensions, but basically if the data type is integer, number data type, right? Number whole or number data type. If it is an integer data type like customer ID, here we have text. Okay, this data type is ABC. Because behind the customer ID we have alphanumeric, we have some alphanumeric data. So in that case, that's the reason we are unable to create a bin. But on top of integer data type or a number data type, you can see you have all these options: group, set, and you can see bin field. Okay, and even postal code, right? Even postal code is a numerical data type. Right click, create a bin field. Okay, so we can create a bin on top of integer data type. That's just remember. Okay, so yes, on top of number data type. So how to create a bin, I'm going to showcase that. So what is the advantage of bin? Sometimes if we have age range, if we have a age, let's take an example, age in years. And if you want to, like 1 to 100 or whatever the number we have, if you want to create a group, something like age range from 0 to 9, right? And 10 to 19, and 20 to, so 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39. So just an example, okay? So if you want to create something like a group, right? So some 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, some age range, or 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 40, 50, right? In that case, we have to write multiple if conditions. You understand, right? So something like that. So if you want to avoid multiple if conditions on top of integer data type, we have an advantage to create a bin field. Okay. So I'll showcase this example, like right click on sales. So create a bin field. So we are getting some suggested bin based on this minimum value and maximum value and the number of distinct records. Okay. So the suggested bin is 447, but we have an option to click on drop down. We can see enter value. So let's say I'm creating a bin field based on size 1000. So just concentrate. It won't take much time, but I'll give you more clarity how to create a bin. So this is what I created a bin, right? Edit. The bin size I provided is 1000. Okay. So let's drag and drop the bin into rows. And you can see here, we are getting 0 to 22K. And you should understand this particular point, why we are getting 22K. Okay. Why we are getting 22K, 0 to 22K, the sales range. Okay. So when you create a new sheet, when you double click on sales, You will get grand total obviously because of this functionality. Analysis aggregate measures. It has to aggregate. It is sales, but whenever you are going to drag and drop into rows or columns, right? You can see the aggregation sum of sales, right? But if you want to see the lowest level of granularity, you understand, right? If you want to see the lowest level of granularity, which is product wise sales for a particular order wise product wise sales, or in general, I don't want to go for aggregation of this measure, right? So that means you can go back to analysis and select this aggregate measure and just create text. It's unable to display this. Okay, so once you converted, we are unable to display that. So let's double click on sales. Don't create a, oh, this was, because we are unselected. So let's select aggregate measures. So when you select aggregate measures, you can see here, this is the grand total. Okay, first you can drop into text. If you want to see the lowest level of granularity, go back to analysis and select aggregate measure. And when you look into this information, right, this is what the lowest level of granularity. Okay, so you can see 22K, 22,638 is the max of sales. That's the reason you can see the bin size, the maximum is 22K. Even I can showcase very clearly the sales information. Okay, so this is what the lowest level of granularity, and we are not able to see. There are a lot of records. Okay, 9,994. So that's the reason we are unable to display this. So it's not aggregated. I'll showcase this example with bins. Okay, let's go for sales. If needed, I can create a bar graph so that you might get more clarity. Or first, let's look into the sales information. So between 0 to 1000, 0K is nothing but 0 to 1000. Okay, 22K in the sense 22,000 to 23. 21, you understand, right? So it's like 1000 differentiations. 0 is nothing but 0 to 1000, 1000 to 2000, something like that. But how we have to validate this? Yes, we are able to fetch the data, but how we can validate? As I said, one of the advantage, we don't prefer measures on top of, we don't prefer groups, sorry, we don't prefer group on top of measures. See, this is what the actual one. Okay, so don't confuse, but just for a clarification, I'm showing this. Right click, create a group. As I said, we don't prefer groups on top of measure because which is static, group is static. And now this is what the sales, the lowest level. Okay, this is what the actual sales at the lowest level of granularity. When you scroll down, you can see the maximum value 22,638. Here is the maximum value. So in between 22K to 23, what is, how many records you do have? Only one, right? That's what you're getting here. So do we have data for 18K? No, right? Do we have data for 19K? Do we have here? No. So we don't have data in between 18 to 19, 19 to 20, 20 to 21, and 21 to 22. You understand, right? So the next record you can see is 17,499.95. So that's the reason it comes under 17K. I'll showcase one more interesting point with decimal. Let me know if you have any questions. I just created this group. I even didn't create it, but I just showing this particular group on top of measures just to validate the sales range. across the lowest level of granularity. So in here you can see 17,500, and next you don't have till 14,000. So, and you can ask, like, here, as I said, I'm like from 13,000 to 14. If it is 14K, it has to comes under 14K, but why you are displaying this? It is 13,999.96, which is you're getting a roundup value because of rounding of that particular measure value. Because of you're not showing the decimal, it's showing 14,000. But if it is 14,000.000 any point, it has to comes under 14K. But because of this 13,999.96, it comes under 13K. So for 12K, we don't have any results. For 11K, we have 11,200. For 10K, we have how many sales? We can see here 10,500. For 9K, we do have 3 records. Okay, for 9K, we do have 3 records. So 9 3s are 27. We can see the sales value is 28K. And if you add 892 plus 449 plus 99, you'll get 1000 plus. That is what 28,443. You understand, right? So if you need it, that's what my point. If needed, we can create a bar graph. Okay, create a bar graph, and let me drop order ID into color. Okay, order ID into color. Just for a validation. Okay, just for this validation. So you can see, let me create a group for validation, right? This tooltip is not showing. So here you can see these 3 records. Okay. Let's understand this. So I'm going to create this a snapshot of this. Okay. Okay. Let's concentrate on this. So for 13K, you can see here we do have 3913,999. Okay. For 11K, 10K is fine. For 9K, you can see 9,100, 9893, and 9450. Okay, at least you can remember 9450. The first, you can see 9,100, the first one 99099.93, which is round up 9,100, correct? And we have seen 9450, that's a rounding value, 9449.95, which is 9450, and 9892.74, 9892.74, that is 9893. You understand, right? So this is where you can see the number of records across that level, the number of product wise sales, the lowest granularity. So for 8,000 range, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 records. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 8 4s are 32. So the total sales is you can see the total sales when you drag and drop into labels. You can see around 30. You're not able to display here. So yeah, so around we have 33,000 or something like that. Okay, so let me drop this 33,498. Okay, so that's what the bin field basically, and I just shown this across the lowest level of granularity to know that, so how it is aggregating, you understand, right? So whatever the range of values in between 0 to 1000 k, you can see these are the range of values. And if you wants to drag and drop order id, just for a clarification, you can drag and drop order id, so that you can showcase each and every order wise, but it takes the lowest level of granularity. Okay, so this is what bin field, and this is where you can check, you can validate across what level we are getting more sales. Okay, at what range, you understand, right? At 0k, 0 to 1000, you can see a lot of sales happen. So that means lower the cost price. So it is sales information, but general example, you can see the lowest the cost price, you can see the more number of sales happened across that level, right? So that is what bin field. So this is what bin, where you can create bins on top of measures, something like grouping of data. You can also create a salary range, right? So in between 0 to 50k, 50 to 1 lakh, or 100k, 100 to 200, something like that. And how many employees comes under the salary range, right? So that's what the bin field. So I just used, I'm just placed order ID into color just for a clarification. So, but in general, this is what the bin field. And if you want to use parameter in bins, okay, right click, edit, because now the size of the bin is, let's swap. Now the size of the bin is 1k, right? The separation 1000, 2000, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right click, edit, click on this drop down, create a new parameter, and you can create a bin field. So let's say I will create the minimum size is like 1000, maximum you can go for 5000, and the step size I will give 500. Okay, so every time step size is like increment by 500 with the minimum value 1000, next 1500, right? Next 2k, something like that. So now you can see here the size of the bin. If you want it, I can do the format. Instead of 1k, let's go for number standard. Okay, so let's increment by 500, which is 1500. You can see now the size of the bin is 0 to 15, 1500, 15 to 3, 3000, 3 to 4.5. So the differentiation is 1500. Now increment by 500, that is 2000. Now the size of the bin is 2000, correct? So this is where you can pass a value. So that means you can pass a value to the, from the parameter to bin, so that you can change the size of the bin. You understand, right? You can change the size of the bin. So now the differentiation is 3k, 0, 3000, 6, 9, 12, 15, right? So whatever the value you want to pass, you can create a parameter, and you can also pass the parameter to bin field. Still, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll showcase one more time, or I will give you another example. Any questions on this? So the shortcut is, we already have bin field, but let's click on profit. We don't have profit bin. If you want, you can search. profit reference, something like that, but we don't have profit bin. So let's select profit, go back to show me, click on histogram. So this will create a profit bin. Default, this will create a profit bin. If you want to search here, you can see profit bin is created, and you're getting count of profit. Okay, you're not getting profit information, sum of profit. You're getting number of the records, like the number of across that particular size of the profit. You are getting the number of orders, right? That's what usually it calculates. Okay, profit edit, sorry, the size of the bin is 283, so it takes 283 range. But in general, this is what an example where you can see the default bin. So if you're not aware of how to create a bin, just select a measure, come back to show me, click on histogram, automatically it will create a bin. Okay, then if you want to change the value, you can make use of parameter, or even you can also go for manual entry. Any questions?
Yeah, Ramesh, can you create two measures at the same time with bin?
So you mean to say, let's go back, select two measures, profit,
Yeah,
control, sales,
sales.
show me. You can see you don't have an option to create a histogram. You understand, right? So right click, create. Let's see whether we can create a bin field or not. So even we are not getting here. We'll come back to combine field with the dimensions. Okay, I'll showcase how to create a combination of fields with the help of dimensions. Let's say I have region and I have state. I can create a combination of field. I'll come back to this. But we don't create, and it's not possible to create a bin on top of measures, two or more measures. Simple, like what we are doing is an example. Okay, I'm going to showcase an example. So what we are doing is like analysis, create a calculation field. Let's take a bin size. If sum of sales less than, or let's say take sales. Okay, don't aggregate. If sales less than 1,000, then less than 1K. Okay, else if sales less than 2,000, then less than 2K. Else if sales less than 3,000, then less than 3K. Let me use else greater than or equal to 4K. Let's check the calculation is valid or not. Okay, you understand, right? I was able to create a bin field manually, but you can see sales less than 1K, 2K, 3K. Let's double click on sales just for a validation. Okay, just double click on sales. Sales in less than 1K, 1307032. Let's validate. So I'm not saying it may be correct or wrong. Let's drop this. So maybe it's considering the complete sales, the lowest level of granularity. So it might be considering you can see, right, 1307032. So I'll tell you why it is happening. because of the lowest level of granularity, like we do have product and orders. Okay, we do have product and orders across that level. That's the reason we are getting some differentiation, but that's okay. So what I mean to say is, if you instead of creating a bin field, okay, instead of creating a bin field, oh, it's 2000, sorry. Let's validate. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, we are getting proper data. Okay, 1307032. Yeah, that's good actually. You can see 1307032, 1307032. Yes, we're getting absolutely same result. So my point is, if instead of creating a bin field, if you want to create, let's say, sales range to 22K, how many case statements you have to write, or how many if else statements you have to write? You understand, right? So we have to write around 22 lines of code, correct? If you are going to write 22 lines of code, that will, for sure, it will degrade the performance. That is the reason why we can create a bin field, that is straight away. I hope you understand. So instead of, this is what manually you can create a bin field. You don't want to go for bin. This is what manual process. You can create a bin. I just stopped here, okay? So instead of wasting time like less than 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, I can write the code, but it's a waste of time. That is the reason why I created a bin field, and even you can dynamically pass a value, that is parameter, and you can reduce those number of pins, or if you can increase those number of pins. Clear? Any questions? Any questions you can ask. So it's not much complicated, but basically just try to understand. It's kind of a grouping, it's kind of a grouping. And let's say I will give you a perfect example. Okay, let's say you have 0 to 20 percentage, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, 80 to 100. I hope you might aware of Six Sigma concept, which is practically we might not aware of this, but can you tell me out of 100%, can you tell me out of 100 students, so how many persons will get, on an average, how many students will get 80 to 100 percentage on an average? This is an interesting, you have to answer. Okay, so on an average, please, in general, in our school life or college life, how many persons will get 80 to 100, let's say out of 100? So I'll tell you, this is 10 count, this is 20, this is 30, this is 40, this is 50, this is 60, 70. So we cannot predict that everyone will get, all the 100% will get in between 80 to 100, right? Just an example. So did you got the question? If you still have any questions on this particular question, if you didn't understand the question, I will explain one more time. So let's say out of 100 percentage in your, let's say any of the degree, out of 100 percentage, right? So let's say you got in between 60 to 80 percentage, right? How many percents will get between 60 to 80? How many percents on an average? That's what my question. No one? No guess. It's a simple question, right? Not sure. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
So you said how many percent or how many?
Out of
Like,
100 students, out of
mhm.
100 students, how many will get between 80 to 100 on an average? That's the question. How many will get 60 to 80 or 40 to 60? Something like this.
20%.
Okay. So this is 20 in the sense 10 plus 10. Okay. So this is 20. Nice. Any number. So I am not saying we have to go for only like 20. So let's say you may get between 60 to 80. There are like 30 people. In between 40 to 60, there are like 50. So how many persons here? So this is 50, this is 30, this 20. It's 100. So no one got like less than 40 percentage. Let's say I can tell that so more than 80 percentage, there are only few persons, very few persons will get top rank. Okay, so let's consider that example. So only like 10 percentage, and there are very few persons will get failed, right? So let's say 20 to 40 percentage, there are only 10 percentage of students. So not even one person got less than 20 percentage. That's okay, that's valid. So now this is 10 10 percentage, and this is 50 percentage of the students got between 40 to 60, and 30 percentage of the students got between 60 to 80, and 10 percentage of the students got A plus. You understand, right? So this is what histogram. This is what histogram, and this is what the bin field. So you can see the range. You can see the range is 20 percentage, 0 to 20, 20 to 40. The differentiation is 20, right? This is what the perfect example for histogram, and we do called as Six Sigma. Six Sigma. Maybe this comes under like in machine learning in few of the things, right? We'll go for this kind of histogram charts. If even you can search Six Sigma, Six Sigma visualization. Let's go for image. Okay, so this is a perfect example for Six Sigma. This one, lower specification limit, upper specification. Most of the cases average persons will get highest number. Average, on an average, in the middle you can see highest number. That's what I designed here. Okay, on an average you might get 60 to 70 more number of persons, right? Average marks. but but for the toppers, right, it's basically 80 plus or 90 plus, you can see very less persons, right? And very few people will fail, but on an average you'll get 80 percentage. That's what Six Sigma. You understand, right? That's a concept. So very less marks, very huge marks, you can see very less number of students. Okay, but on an average you can see the number of students is more. That's what mean is like average. That's a concept of Six Sigma. But here you can compare. This is the count, this is the bin field, this is the bar graph. This is what histogram. Clear all? Any questions?
Clear.
Still any questions, let me know. So this is what bin. Interestingly, this example will help actually. So whatever we created bin here, right? So that's the same. So the range of values where we can pass a parameter. So the size of the bin is like initially it is 1000. Now you can make use of 2000, 2000, 2500, which is the size of the bin we created is, we created a parameter, right? The profit, this is sales bin parameter. Let's edit sales bin parameter. You can see the minimum value is 1000 and the step size is 500. Every time it will increment by 500. So it is like 1000, 1500, 2000, 2500, 3000, something like that. So that's the advantage of bin. Okay, clear all? So this is what the advantage of bin, where we can use parameter and you can change the size of the bin. And in general, this is what the example I just want to showcase. In general, in Six Sigma, like this is where perfect example, like the bin field, and this is the count. When you create a histogram, go back to, let's click on sales, or even as I said for profit. We created a profit for that. No. So let me, okay, let's create a profit. Click on profit, click on histogram. What you're getting here, sales range, right? The size of the bin, range, and the count. That's what I showed here. It's a count, the number of students, and the size of the bin. This is the size of the bin. Clear? So the default histogram we are showing in a bar graph. I hope you understand this histogram and bins. So very important question is like, yes, we can create bins on top of dimension, but the data type must be number data type. Okay. So very important point. So that is what parameters we discussed. Importantly, we discussed difference lines, calculation fields with parameters and custom SQL. And we used parameters in filters and also in title. And that is what bin field. So the next topic is like we do have discrete and continuous. So we'll discuss this tomorrow, but I'll give you an example. So one of the, what is the advantage of discrete and continuous? And you'll get this question in, basically you can see this particular question in certification exams, what actual discrete and continuous. I'll give you a quick introduction of that. So basically, you know how to identify a dimension and measure. So when you click on any measure, you can see basically on top of measures, it shows in a green color, right? Sales, you can see in green color. When you click on a dimension, it shows in blue color. So they will ask, they will select this, they will showcase this color, and they will ask whether it is a dimension or measure or discrete or continuous. Okay. So I'll tell you, so we'll go through that each and every point, and I will showcase one of the interesting scenario where, do you remember like sometimes I used to showcase this example like Wikipedia, any of the organization, let's go for Walmart. And you can also showcase something like this indicators. You can see this indicator. So whether it is decrease or increase, based on that, you can showcase the upper triangle or lower triangle, correct? So I'll showcase this tomorrow. So how to create this kind of information and whether it is, if the sales is greater than some condition, we can showcase that in upper triangle. If not, we can showcase in a lower triangle. So that's the advantage, and I'll showcase multiple examples for discrete and continuous. Then we'll go for annotations after completion of this, and we have data blending, which is very, very important concept. So data blending, and we do have table calculations. We have data blending versus cross database join. So I'll explain that, which is very important concept. Then we'll go for calculation parts. We have table calculations, and importantly, we have quick table and add table calculations. We have few of the functions, some window functions, and attr and lookup functionality, and level of details. These are completely, sir, completely comes under calculation part. Okay, so level of details, we have functions. So in functions we have string, date, number functions. Then we can go for charts, types of visualizations. Okay, so we'll go through that step by step. Yeah.